What's the difference between management and leadership? That's today on BCP. Welcome back, Proud Nation. This is the Blue Collar Proud Show. It's the show that's all about having and living the blue collar business dream. If you can dream it, you can build it. Taylor and I want to be along for that journey on your success. If you're a new listener or an old listener, I hope, and I don't mean old in the way of like being old. I mean, you've been around for a while listening to the show. We just want to thank you for listening and thank you for letting us be a part of your journey to success. We hope that we can contribute some things, some learning that'll help you get where you want to go. My name's Carter Harkins. With me every single week here is Taylor Hill.
Man, I'm still here.
And I got to say, you're always so patient while I ramble on at the beginning of the show there. You just kind of sit there and patiently wait. Just wait.
Just wait for it. I wait for it. Sometimes I wonder, does he remember I'm here?
How long is he going to go here?
Does he know that I'm actually sitting across from him? You know, did he forget my name?
I can start reading your face. You're like, come on.
Okay.
Well, this is going to be a good show. This is actually a second interview. We decided to extend with Kenny Chapman, and after the last episode that we did with him a little while back on books on leaders being readers, we got to into another conversation and thought, this would be a really good thing to talk about. It's this idea that you know, transitioning, thinking about leadership and management and the difference. You know.
So when did you actually realize there was really a different mindset between leadership and management?
It started when, and we were talking about this with Kenny before we decided to do the show. It started when, in the beginning of our business, I was doing a lot of things that I wasn't particularly good at, but they needed to be done. Mm-hmm. And one of the things I realized was that managing people, managing task level stuff is a real drain for me. It's hard to do. Mm-hmm. What I enjoy doing is inspiring people to do their best and think about the big picture of how it all fits together and why we do it. And that's where I realized that, there's a real difference. And I've heard people say before or define leadership and management in different ways, but I think the one way that really stuck with me was that management is the task of management is to make sure that a company is doing things right. The task of a leader is to make sure that the company is doing the right things. Mm-hmm. And there's a slight difference there. Making sure that we're doing the right things. That's a big picture thing. That's a decision about what is it that should be done? What is the most important thing that we should be focused on? And then orienting people around that task. And that orients managers to go, okay, now this is what we know is the most important thing. How do we do that to the best of our ability? How do we take the resources we have, people, other things, and create the systems and everything so that this gets done right every single time?
Yeah.
And that to me is probably the easiest way to understand what the real difference is.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So I thought it was a great conversation. It was kind of spur of the moment. So let's jump into that conversation with Kenny Chapman again from Blue Collar Success Group and hear his take on some of these leadership and management topics. And then we'll come back and circle back at the end. Joining us again is Kenny Chapman with the Blue Collar Success Group. Hey, man.
Hey guys, how we doing today?
Doing awesome. Glad to have you on. This is something that's one of those subjects, maybe you think it's just semantics and splitting hairs on what the word actually means, but I don't know. Taylor and I think that there's a difference between what management is and what leadership is. And there's a lot of crossover. If you were to draw out like a Venn diagram, then obviously there's going to be some overlay, but it's a different concept. So I just want to throw the question to you and get your take on that. What is the real difference in your mind between just management and leadership?
I don't have this great philosophical response, but as a simple blue collar guy, to me, vision is what and management is how. And so when we really chunk down goals to the lowest, simplest level, really boil them down, it's really how much by when. How much meaning how many pounds, how much meaning how many sales, how much meaning percentage of gross margin, that profit, whatever that is, how much, and then you set a number on it or a calendar of by when. And I think that we forget, because so many of us come from quote unquote small business where, I started by myself in the truck as a dead broke drain cleaner and went through all the facets of growing a self-managing company. So from letting go of what I'm really good at because now I need to lead, rather than really managers get it done and leaders go, what do we want to do? What's next? How does this look? What's really, I think leadership is really at the vision level.
Yeah, I agree. So when someone who was a technician decided, they looked at their boss one day and said, I can do it better than this joker can. And they went out and got the magnetic sign, stuck it on the side of their pickup truck, picked up a few tools they didn't already have in their tool belt, and went to work.
Or took them from him. Oh, yeah,
sorry. As is often the case.
And there's that.
To that guy who thinks he understands how to run a company, hire people, lead them, or manage them in the business, this guy's in for a rude awakening about what it really takes to get a team 100% bought in. And so maybe he's managing, maybe he's cracking the whip, and he thinks that it's about command and control. It's about we call it the whatever, whenever management style. You're going to do whatever I say, whenever I say do it. When I say jump, you say how high, and it's that constant need. And sometimes it's an ego thing. I want to be the guy who makes the call, and everybody does what I say. So I spend 12 hours of my day chasing around my team all over creation, solving their problems and telling them what they need to do. That obviously falls in the ineffective category of either leadership or management. But when you are talking to someone who's coming out of that, who's realizing, I'm never going to get to where I want to go with that kind of a mindset. I've got to start actually building a team that can manage themselves on some new level that they haven't been yet. How do you start with that person, and what are some of the things that you tell them about what's important to focus on now that you're the owner of a company managing a team?
I think it's a couple of things. Great, big question too. But I think really the core is to begin to understand that you need to shift your identity, meaning that where you've gotten value as a technician, and I can speak to this because as I mentioned, I started by myself in a truck, and at one time I think we peaked at about 42 team members in a fairly small market, but I had a lot of different levels that I grew. But what happened when I began my shift to create a self-managing company, I started literally shifting how I thought about things. So when I was a technician, what's your mindset? You got to be the best, right? So I'm going to be the best technician. I'm going to be the best salesperson. I'm going to be the best whatever communicator with my client. I'm going to get the most reviews in today's world. Whatever that is, I'm the best in those skill sets and those roles. But now when I go to manager, everything begins to kind of shift. And now if I'm going to go from manager to leader, everything shifts. And so, for instance, when I was building my team, I would take time away and test and see. And what would happen is I was traveling the country putting on seminars about once a month. And I took a motorhome trip, 6-month motorhome trip, and I went gig to gig. And I would show up in the new city and people would be like, what's going on? And, that was before Facebook. And have they burnt the building down yet? Or what's happening with all this? And they would tell me this. And here's the point. They'd go, I want to run my company like you do, Kenny. And I would say, no, you don't. They're like, well, what do you? Yeah, no, I do. I want a motorhome. I want to take Friday off. I go, no, you don't. You say you do, but you really don't. Because here's the deal. I get identity out of my team having all of the answers. And most of us get identity from us having the answer. Mm-hmm. Massive identity shift, massive culture shift, massive system shift. Everything in the company changes when you start saying, I'm valuable if I can get it done through other people. One of my biggest mentors in the world, Dan Sullivan, runs a company called Strategic Coach. I love his phrase, I can accomplish anything in the world.
So long as I don't have to do it.
As long as I don't have to do it, right?
Sorry, I didn't mean to steal your thunder.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite quotes.
It is too, right? And why do we love it? Because that's what we crave, but then our ego gets in the way.
Yeah.
And it goes, well, I'd like to, but what about this? What about that? So I think truly, to move into true leadership, it's releasing yourself from, man, I've got to, in order to look good in the world, in order to feel progress today, that I accomplished something rather than, I accomplished the job that a technician does. How did I grow people today? That becomes the shift.
And that is such an important thing.
I was going to say, I think the difference to me between a manager and a leader is a manager does exactly that. They manage people. They're managing people
systems or processes.
systems or processes, but they're managing something around to accomplish a certain function, a certain goal. Leaders grow people. So that to me is the biggest difference. Managers manage people, leaders grow people. And and it's the same thing. Leaders grow systems too. Leaders grow whatever it is they want to grow. And because it's all about having the vision to grow whatever you're trying to grow. And if you have a business like most of us do, and the most precious assets we have are the people in our business, then as a leader, you have to concentrate on growing those people. So, to me, that's a huge differential. Because I can be a leader and I can be a manager both, but I have to know what I'm doing when. And some managers can also lead, some leaders can also manage, but there are other leaders that need really good managers and vice versa. So you kind of have to know what your skill set is as well, and also understand that we need good managers and we also need good leaders, and it's okay if you're one and not the other.
And thank you for saying that out loud. I mean, that's it. Embrace your, now this isn't about the, 28-step personality profile going, on Tuesdays you wake up and your eyes are a little bluer than on Thursday. I mean, that's not what this is about. This is about going, what makes me tick? What drives me? What am I really good at? As you're saying that, one of my kind of pseudo whatever demented heroes on some level is Richard Branson, right? Probably just from, who doesn't want to own an island, right? And just hang around and whatever. But as you were saying that, it dawned on me that, think about it. I mean, Richard Branson is a phenomenal leader. He's a thought leader. He's completely changed the game of transportation in certain ways. The way that he launched Virgin was an unbelievable story. He just got stranded and decided to pull people together and rent a plane is how that whole thing started. Unbelievable leader, but think about it. Not only I would challenge that not only would he not be a good manager, he would borderline be liability. Yeah. This dude would like to have a naked chick hanging on him kite surfing rather than running a board meeting, right? Yeah. And so we think about this and we go, okay, wait a minute. What is the reason I share that is that's an extreme example, because it's easy for us to see and go, oh, no, Richard needs to be out there just motivating and keeping his head clear and whatever so he can think of the next great thought. But many of us don't think of ourselves that way. We think, oh, I've got to do all these things. And he's on Necker Island and he's getting back from a diving experience and having his next thought. He's not running into the kitchen to do the dishes. See, That's what we've got to remember. Frank Sinatra didn't move his own piano.
Yeah. It is a mindset thing to understand where you fit in the scope of what's needed, right? To bring your best and highest contribution to the organization. And that changes over time. And have you noticed this in your own experiences watching businesses go from startup owner operator level up to, you know, 100, $2 million, 100, $200 million type companies. All the way through that experience, you talk to the owner and the principals of that business, and they'll tell you that what they do looks nothing like what they did in the beginning. Every step along the way, every new milestone, every new achievement, every level of growth, every extra zero at the end of that revenue,
Right.
you know, created new needs for the organization and new roles for the people leading it. And at some point, and this is where it got exciting for me in growing our business, is that the larger we get, the more I can specialize in those things that I am truly a rock star in. And I can stop having to do those things that suck the freaking life out of my day and my week. So, I mean, do you see that same process in businesses you work with?
1,000%. And I think we forget, you know, that the team that got you here won't be the team that gets you there, and there are benchmarks, and you know, you look at managers. I watched it after one of the last consolidation runs in the plumbing, heating, air conditioning, electrical space, where there are managers. You talk about managers and leaders. There are guys that can go in, and gals that can take a $10 million center and grow it to 25 million in 3 years, but put them in a $5 million center and the thing will be bankrupt in 3 years because they can't operate without that extra level of support, or whatever the case is, you know, whatever that is, because that's where their sweet spot is, and they know that. Now, for you as the entrepreneur, one of the challenges we have, I think, is, you bring this up, my life changed when I completely embraced having an assistant. And I was taught that rich, ego-based, awful people that aren't going to heaven have assistants, right? I mean, you know, that, like, you had to have the word executive in front of it, like, oh, you know, and so I was like, no, that's not me. That was the us and them mentality I was raised with. And then I went, wait a minute. The fact is, you know, I'm a driven, gifted entrepreneur, and when I have an assistant, that serves their life because they do all that crap that I hate, and they love that. They literally enjoy that stuff, and it's mind-boggling to me. But I think that, you know, when you really realize that, as you evolve into that space, to what you said. Now, the challenge with what you said too is, now you're able to embrace and really do the things that you really like to do. But at some point, that meant that there was a conversation in your head where you had to release and go, I'm really not that great at that.
Yeah.
And there's some tasks you kind of enjoy them, but you're really not that great at them. And you have to have that conversation in order to set yourself free.
Absolutely. That conversation oftentimes is a bruise to the ego when you realize, you know what, I've always done this. I've always gotten my strokes from this particular thing. And now I'm realizing that there's people on my team who are even better at it than I am, who have better ideas about this than I do. And the responsible thing to do for the sake of the organization is to turn it over to them and to get out of their way and to empower them to take it where it needs to go. And I'll find something else that I can do. But for me, where that shift has happened is, like, just like you said, I'm going to get my ego strokes from being the guy who thought up the idea and created the company. And I get to sit back and own it and take credit for being smart enough to let smart people do what they do best.
Exactly.
Well, here's the great news about this, though, guys. I mean, really, if you're thinking about it, in this is my opinion, in the right way, just think of the opportunity that you're giving others. When you give up those things that you're not good at, and you give those people the opportunity to really take control, responsible, and run with the things they're good at, it gives them the same satisfaction that we get to have by owning the company and doing what we're good at, and then looking back and going, wow, and they're happy. And you've got happy, healthy, great, involved employees. I mean, what can be wrong with that? It's perfect.
I think, you know, I think freedom is in simplification. You know, I think the more that we simplify, the more we multiply. And I think that, as you know, we were taught this big box mentality that you got to be all things to all people, rather than going, well, I lead really good at this. I recently had the opportunity to go to the Galapagos Islands, and we did 3 different islands and shifted around. I'm like, they've got some things figured out. And I mean, they don't drink their own water. Like Mexico, they drink their own water or whatever. Like here, they don't even drink their own water. It's as primitive of a place that I've been, other than, the first Gulf War or whatever. But I mean, you go down there and I'm like, you know what? What's interesting is we're almost trying to get back here. They've got the family that has been forever, the bakery family, and they've got the butcher family, and they've got the family that makes the shoes, and they've got and I'm kind of looking at that going, at some point we crossed over and went, well, I'm going to build a company that I'm going to make the shoes, and I'm going to make the meat, and I'm going to and all this type of, and where I think where the freedom comes is getting back to going, what if I'm a really, really wicked good butcher? Mm-hmm. And that's what I do. And it still works when you look at companies like In-N-Out and different things, and or a Chick-fil-A that goes, we're going to close on Sunday due to our religious belief, and people fly in the face of normal all the time, and that's where the win is.
Yeah,
knowing what your lane is and staying in it.
Mm-hmm.
Bingo.
And that's good stuff. Hey, Kenny, I know people are going to want to connect with you, and you've got something free to offer to our listeners today, don't you?
I do, yeah. I'd like to give you a copy of The Most Powerful Selling Secret Ever. This is a 4-hour recording. It's broken up, of course, into chapters and different things. It's on general sales and influence. Just text the word SECRET, SECRET, to 480-842-5337.
Text the word SECRET and give us the number again.
480-842-5337. And we'll send you 4 hours of my philosophy on overall sales, service, and communication.
That's awesome. If you're listening, you make sure you do that now. We'll also include those instructions in the show notes today. Kenny Chapman, you're a prince, man. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, always fun.
Thank you, guys. Always a pleasure.
Talk
Have a
soon.
great day, guys.
Bye-bye.
It was great. He's just, we got a little off topic there. I think maybe a little at the end, but it was great talking to someone about some of those distinctions and the journey that each person goes on along the way through business. I mean, you start realizing different things about yourself as your business is growing.
Oh yeah. And he said it well. He says, we need to get together at some point and just smoke a cigar around a fire and just converse.
Yeah.
I mean, he's one of those guys. So it's just great having him.
Brother from another mother.
It's it.
One of the things that as he was talking, it dawned on me that you really do have to jump back and forth when you're starting a business. There is no, well, I just don't do that because it's not in my wheelhouse. I mean, you just got to get into that wheelhouse, and you've got to make that your thing. Otherwise, the business isn't going to succeed. But it's two different mindsets, and that's what it boils down to. That is what we're talking about. It's a mindset thing. So I guess my question to you is, how do you toggle between those? Because you're much more effective. You seem to be able to jump from management thinking and mindset over to leadership thinking and mindset a little more seamlessly, maybe. And so I'm wondering what your strategies are for doing that. How do you get there?
Well, one of the things that I think you have to realize is you have to get there. If you lead and manage a team until you're able to really split those things out, you have to do both. That's the first thing. I think the second thing is, one of the ways I've always gotten praise is from being a really good manager. I didn't realize that I was also a really good leader for a long time. And so I think my natural proclivity, if you will, is as a leader, because I love encouraging and inspiring people. But because I've had to manage, I've become really good at it. So it doesn't, I think one of the things that people need to understand is, just because they're not naturally wired a certain way doesn't mean they can't get there. Okay. So, and that also doesn't mean you have to stay there in that place. So I would much rather inspire and encourage than manage. But what I learned a long time ago, if there's nobody managing after you inspire, nothing happens. Nothing gets done.
Right.
So the first thing is you have to acknowledge sometimes you got to do both. Knowing that if you can do both and grow your business to a place, you can get to a place to hire either the person that can inspire and encourage, or hire the person that can really manage and get things done.
Yeah.
Knowing that that's a possibility down the road, which should give you hope.
Yeah.
You don't have to do it forever.
Well, and it's so fascinating to me in talking with so many business owners. You see guys who prefer to be in the trenches, managing processes, making sure that it's tuned up and running, like a race car.
Yeah.
And that's the world they love to live in. And they have trouble stepping out and inspiring the troops or addressing the troops in terms, and thinking about culture and purpose and mission and those kinds of bigger picture type things. They struggle to get there. And in fact, they even feel some uncomfortability, especially if the business is big, because it's kind of like public speaking.
Yeah.
I mean, if you got a team of 20 people, every time you call them together, suddenly you're in front of a room talking to a group of people. And for some people, that's really intimidating.
Right.
And then others that are completely the reverse of that. So.
Yeah. And so much of leadership is around people, because our companies are made of people. So you're inspiring people either on an emotional and a visceral level, or you're paying people out of money to do what needs to be done. And hopefully you're doing both. I mean, I think really good cultures, because I don't care what kind of a culture you have, you want to pay them well so they can support their families and all that stuff. So, when I talk about culture and inspiration, I don't say at the cost of paying a good wage, or them the availability of making a good wage through commission or whatever.
Right.
But I think, there are things is when you look at a situation and ask what is needed in this given situation, that's much different than what do my people need, or what do my people need me to be in a given situation. So management to me is kind of around tasks and things, where leadership is more about people and how those people orient around task and things. That sounds, you can, and I'm sitting here thinking I can argue that point in my own mind, but it really is about motivation versus inspiration. You know what I'm saying? So you can motivate people in a lot of ways, but I've never known people to be inspired to do something because of money, bonuses, that kind of stuff. But I've known a lot of people to be inspired to do crazy things for a lot of different reasons. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So, and there is a fine line between both those things. But, when you were talking about it's a matter of doing things right or doing the right things, I would agree with you, but I would go one step further, because sometimes it's inspiring people to do things right. And that's leadership as well.
Oh, absolutely.
You know? And in management, sometimes doing the right things first, priority setting, is what a manager will do. So there's these split hairs, and I wrestled with this for the longest time because I thought all of it was about management. I didn't think I was a very good leader. Well, you know that. We had this conversation. Yeah. I just didn't think I was really a good leader at all. And I told some of my team members here, and they have come back to me and said, "Oh no, you're a fantastic leader." And I've had to look at it a little bit differently because there's such nuance to it. Any time that you can orient people around a task or mission or purpose, that's leadership. Okay? But managers orient people to get it done.
Yeah.
So to me, that's kind of the split hairs, because a leader can get you inspired and turn you over to the manager and walk away, and the manager takes it from there and moves them through whatever.
Well, and oftentimes it's the same person though.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I meant, and I think maybe what was meant when the person that first coined that phrase, that leaders focus on doing the right things.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think what they meant was the right thing isn't just inspiring people and not motivating them or managing, task level things. That the right thing is both of those things.
Yeah.
And the effective leader knows when it's time to inspire, and the effective leader knows when it's time to drop in and ask questions and get better results and help the team understand what is going wrong and how to solve problems and manage, conflict and everything else. So both of those are needed. I'm not elevating one above the other. What I'm saying is the role of the leader is different than the role of the manager, even though in the same person, that person has to think about the situation and go, what's needed right now? Are the questions and the issues we're facing an issue that just simply comes down to we need to do things differently than we've been doing it, and we need to discover what that is and change that, fix that, and make sure that we have a system and a process and implement that? Mm-hmm. Or is the reason that we keep coming back to this because nobody understands why this is important, right? That the only way our customers get excellent customer service is if we do it this way. That's why it's important. And why is customer service important, right? So being able to communicate bigger things, why things, rather than, and that's kind of what I mean.
Well, but you asked me a question, how do I do it? And probably you're figuring out I don't know how I do it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so second nature to me now. I don't even know if I've ever sat and looked and said, okay, Taylor, when are you in leadership mode and when are you in manager mode?
No, but I watch you. Can I just give you some, as I've watched you, you are asking that question internally. I mean, that's, it's the first thing you do. You take this big breath and you before you start in, and I'm always curious to see what's going to show up. Is it going to be, go here, do this. This is how we do it. Are you doing it the way that we do it? Manager mode, right? Mm-hmm. Versus what you need to think about is the bigger picture here about this, and this is why this is important, and et cetera. So, I never know which way you're going to go, but you're asking the question. The switch is getting flipped to one track or the other for you, and you're approaching it from what is needed in this moment. And you're reading the situation and the people involved in the situation to make that decision. So, I mean, it does seem that that's a key part of knowing which direction to go in a situation is by asking that question. What do my people need from me right now?
I was going to say, I think the pivotal word is I'm really good at reading people, and I'm pretty doggone good at reading what they need at a given time. And my job as an owner is to give them what they need when they need it.
Yeah.
And that to me is, so I don't know if in fact, I've never thought, is this leader time or is this manager time? But what I do ask myself is, what is needed in this moment?
Yeah.
What do my people need from me?
Right.
And sometimes I miss it. Sometimes, and this is another thing. Just because you're the head honcho leader, whatever, in your business, absolutely does not mean you're going to get it right every time. It's just, you're not going to do it. And sometimes you got to eat crow, eat it and move on, learn from it, because it makes you better. And to be transparent like that, I think, is really important, because that's the other thing. I've never equated a leader better than a manager.
No, and I hope I didn't.
Than that. So if I was coming across that way, I apologize, because I think they're both needed. I'm just saying, some people, and I'm talking about you in a lot of ways. I mean, your natural world is to inspire and encourage you. If you could live there 100% of the time, your world you'd be your happy place all the time. And I'm not sure it wouldn't be my happy place all the time. It's just I've done this other so much, I'm just kind of naturally okay there too. But there's, this higher, what's called that place that is just the sweet spot. And so my point before was, if you know your sweet spot, find the other person that can do the other thing more than you have to.
Yeah.
Because that will make it easier for you to stay in that sweet spot. Just know when you're done. That's the biggest thing that I've seen with people who inspire and encourage. They spend too much time there and don't get out of the way and
Yes.
start moving.
Yeah, that's one of the lessons that I'm
Yeah.
learning as our company has gotten bigger is, we have very capable management, and leaders now who can take, big picture and turn it into actionable tasks and turn those tasks into results.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been a challenge for me to realize that, I'm getting in the way some places. And so figuring out how to step out of that and get out of the way and allow my team to do what they're there to do and be excellent at what they do and support that, as I can. And that was really the point that came up in the conversation with Kenny was, it changes all the time.
Yeah.
What's needed from you is it changes. You learn new lessons about what leadership is at every new level up the rung you go. It's there's new lessons to be learned about how to be effective where you are, what your organization needs from you at any given
always
size.
changes. Yeah. And I think one of the hardest things as owners, not just leaders, but as owners of our company, is to get out of our own way and let our people go. Yeah. And I don't mean let them go other places, but let them run. It's kind of like you want to run this race, you want to win, but you don't ever give the horse the reins. You can't win unless you give the horse the reins and let a horse do what a horse is born to do. And everybody you hire has very natural things they do really, really well. But if you never let them run, you're not leading.
Yeah.
You're holding them back.
Well, and that's an important lesson.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah. For all of us. I mean, all of us have to learn that lesson.
So it's the idea that I'm trying to put this into words. Management is primarily concerned with creating better results. Not that leaders don't care about that,
right.
But leaders ultimately realize that in order to get better results, their primary concern has to be creating new and better leaders.
I think they create new and better leaders, but I think they also create the environment for their company to grow. I mean, I think that's another thing leaders do, is you have to create and guard the environment and culture in order for your company to become what you want your company to be. And I think that's another thing that we don't talk about that leaders need to be doing. That's really important as well.
Yeah. Well, Proud Nation, you can tell that Taylor and I don't have a fully baked definition on any of this. I mean, we've written a book on leadership, and we definitely have specific ideas about what it takes to lead a business successfully. But we're still on that journey, too. We're still learning a lot about leadership. We learn from people like Kenny Chapman on the show today, and from many other people, too. Pat Lincioni has been one that I've learned so much about leadership from.
And it's thought-provoking.
Yeah.
I mean, these are things to think about.
Yep.
I mean, because leadership changes, it evolves. It depends on where you are, what kind of business you have. I mean, there's so much to it. Just don't give up on it. That's really the thing, because no matter where you are in the walk, it's going to get better.
Yeah.
Because you're working on it.
Keep learning.
It's it.
Keep learning. That's good. All right. As far as announcements and feedback, I don't have any feedback to read on the show today, but if you'd like us to know that this podcast is valuable to you, then I just want to ask you to please take a minute and go to the Apple Podcast app. You can search for our show page there for Blue Collar Proud Show. Find the comments section or the review section, and then just leave us a quick review there. Having more reviews there on that particular in the app or on the iTunes podcast show page, that's the place that it will help us to be able to show more people that we're a show that can help them. So help us get the word out if you would, and leave us a review. And thank you very much for doing that. Also, don't forget, you can download our free show app over in the Apple App Store or from Google Play. It's the App Store. I'm sorry, our free app is the place where you can get all of the great content that comes out every single week for the show. You'll get a notice anytime a new episode drops right there in the app and be alerted that you can go and listen. There are all sorts of good bonus content things to check out there. There's a whole tab for special offers. So make sure that you check that out. We encourage you to download it. It's free. You'll have it on your phone, and then you can always get the show anytime. Most of all, though, we want to just encourage you, come hang out with us over in the Blue Collar Proud Nation Facebook group. You can go to Facebook and just do a search for Blue Collar Proud Nation. Ask to join that group, and then you'll be let right in. You can hang out with some really cool people and talk business, talk about growing it, what your pain points are, what the challenges are. So it should be good hanging out with us there. So you can also find out about all the other places where you can connect with us by simply going to bcpshow.com/connect. And that is going to do it for this episode of the Blue Collar Proud Show. As always, Taylor and I want to thank you for listening to the show every single week. We also want to thank the people that make this show happen every single week. That would be Aaron Blaze, our technical director, Jessica Wynn, our show coordinator, and Jonathan Sanders, our community manager. Until next time, remember, it takes the same energy to build your business a way that you truly love getting up and going to work every single day, or you can build it with the same blood, sweat, and tears and hate every minute of it. It's your choice.
The Blue Collar Proud Show is a production of the Blue Collar Proud Network.